The good news, of course, is that when she said that, I got to see it. And now when I'm kind of wishy-washy or waffling or, whatever you want, honey, she'll say, no, really, you get to have what you want. Whoa. I know. So do you know you're part of our online community? Every time you watch us, you belong to CSL Dallas, and we're so happy that you're part of our community. And we love providing you this kind of spiritual message. So if you want to keep seeing this, please donate. You can donate at CSLDallas.org/give, or you can text 972-954-4404. Be part of our community and sit back and enjoy the message. This morning, we're going to continue our conversation about relationships. And we thought that this morning, are we good? Are we good? Yeah. Okay, good. Wait a minute.
Are we good?
And so, so we're working with this fabulous book about spiritual relationships, and of course it's Mother's Day. And so, it's always wonderful to think about our moms and all the wonderful stuff that, that is, and how we're all moms and all that good. And yet, the other thing that we know, I have a dear friend who says that if it's not one thing, it's your mother. And so, so that's, of course, the challenge in that in a relationship, in any relationship, there's really not just the two people, right? There's mom and dad and previous partners and all of that stuff. All of those people, they can come right into the room as we're in relationship. And so Karen and I thought we would talk about that because our mothers are very much present in our own relationship, for good or for ill. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we also want to we thought it would be great to just do a Q&A. To talk about relationships. So you might be thinking about what question do you have that's pressing on your heart about your relationships, about relationship as a spiritual practice, about how we develop deeper relationships, and we're just going to talk about it from our own experience. And so I'll start. So my mother came home from visiting my sister. This was 10, 15 years ago. This was before she passed on, and I remember her coming up to me and she said, I want to have coffee with you. And then she apologized to me. And I was like, okay, what are we apologizing for? She said, in watching you and your sister in your relationships, she said, what I realize is that I've taught you how to abdicate. And I really had to stop and think about that and go, wow. And I began to reflect on my relationships. And I am great as a leader in a room. I'm great as a leader in the community. I'm good with, saying what I think we should do or where we're going, sharing my thoughts and feelings, except for in my primary relationship. In my primary relationship, I realized in that moment, as I reflected on what she said, on how easily I abdicate and how little I know what I want in that experience, even though I know what I want elsewhere in my life. And so how that shows up is we'll be talking about what we want to do, and I don't know. What do you want to do? Well, what do you want to do? Well, yeah, okay. Or I might even have an inkling of an idea in the back of my mind, but the moment that Karen brings something forward, and I'm like, okay, whatever, sure, why not? Oh, I'm being spiritually flexible. See how flexible I am? And then, of course, what happens? What happens is over time, resentment builds up. Well, I never get to do what I want. Taking, of course, not very much responsibility for the fact that I'm actually not saying what it is that I want because I don't actually always realize that that's what I'm doing. Do you see? So, and my mother got to see how the way that she behaved in her relationships, my sister and I were completely playing out. The good news, of course, is that when she said that, I got to see it. And now when I'm kind of wishy-washy or waffling or, whatever you want, honey, she'll say, no, really, you get to have what you want. Whoa. I know, right? And I have to stop and breathe that in and go, okay. so this is one of the things that happens for us, right? Our patterns, our parents, and our moms. This is how my mom, one of the ways, the biggest way my mom plays out in our relationship.
Mm-hmm. It actually happened yesterday.
Yes, it did.
It
Once
did.
Again.
I mean, just primary, easy example. After we got through walking a 5K and picking up trash, she said, well, after being in the woods and sweating and stuff, she said, well, I want a hamburger and I want to sit outside. I was like, great. And so I was like, that's what we're going to do. And then it wasn't but moments later, and we were moving in that direction. She said, well, as long as we get to sit outside. And I said, no, you get what you want. You can have it all. You get both. And she went, oh my gosh, there it is again.
Mm-hmm. Right? Over and over and over again. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for me, this was a little challenging because I have several I could draw from. My mother is in the room all the time. I constantly work on these patterns that I didn't know for a long time that I had. So one that I'll bring forward is I developed a pattern based upon what I was seeing all the time, that no matter how much knowledge or experience or knowledge and experience that one might have, or thoughts or creativity or whatever, when someone brings that forward, I have another idea. I have a better idea. I have another way to do it, but you could do it this way. I developed that in patterns through someone. I'll never forget when I was living in the hills of Oakland, California, the next door neighbor had this beautiful garden, massive, including apple trees, pear trees, all kinds of stuff. And there was a time that my mother was visiting, and we went over to pick some blackberries, and he had apples on his trees. Now, this man had been tending his garden, this particular one, for almost 30 years. And you think he might know how to tend to it? Well, when he was saying what he does, my mother said, oh, no, you need to do it this way. And I could recognize that in her easily, because it, would just aggravate the you-know-what out of me. And I've now become conscious. I've become conscious of this pattern in me, that no matter what someone's bringing forward, or turn left, or let's go this way, and it happens a lot with Petra. And so I'm constantly attempting to redirect her, or give her another way of doing it, or suggesting some other way. And I'm now conscious. There it is. There it is. And I actually know what that feels like, because someone did that to me all the time. And so I'm working to catch it sooner and sooner before it actually comes out of my mouth, because I know what it feels like when I do it, because I know what it feels like when it was done around me.
So what I'll share with Karen is that when that comes up and it starts and it becomes aggravating, is that I share with her I feel controlled. Right? And she's like, well, I'm not trying to control you. I just have a different idea about it. Or I'm just suggesting. That's her favorite way of saying it. Well, I'm just suggesting an option. Okay, but how it lands on me is to feel controlled. Always getting a different suggestion. Never oh, that's a good idea, honey. Let's go do that. And so, but what's so amazing is that as we develop spiritually, right, and we've been able to have these conversations, the biggest gift that Karen gives me is that she goes, I know how that feels. I don't want to be that way with you. Do you see? Right? That awareness and that recognition is priceless. Now, the other thing that you should notice here is that we often talk about how relationships mirror, like, they just mirror back to us, right? But sometimes it's not as simplistic as if you're grouchy, they're grouchy, right? That's sort of a simplistic way that we learn about that. And there is some truth to that. But the other way that we mirror each other is, do you see that her willingness to provide a new suggestion is the perfect key to the lock of my abdication? Do you see that? It's the perfect key to me going, oh, well, okay. Because I actually assume that when she has another idea that she actually means it, which she doesn't, necessarily. But I'm going to abdicate because, well, it must be important to her, or she wouldn't have said it. And then of course resentment builds up, and then I feel controlled, and then she feels all upset because she's not really controlling. Do you see how that can then, there we go, or there we go, whichever way you want to say it. But we often, I think, misunderstand this idea of mirroring, and rather than, we don't always attract somebody who's just like us, although that can happen, but we actually attract patterns that fit perfectly together. And so the opportunity that's available to us is for us to own our parts of the pattern, right? We each have to own that part that we bring to that moment, and sometimes it's a day or two later. Sometimes it's right away, but sometimes it's a day or two later, and but that's how we learn and then we can begin to show up differently, right? We get to decide to say something different, behave differently. Quite frankly, Karen does actually have to learn how to not speak, and I actually have to learn how to speak. And it's so much more comfortable for me if she'll just take the lead, because I'm used to abdicating, right? And so I actually have to bring myself forward more. And so this is the dance. This is part of our spiritual practice dance. And the very thing that we bring to each other, that we bring to the relationship, is exactly what the other person needs to learn and grow. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Right? So, do we enjoy it all the time? No, but it's good.
No.
So these are the ways in which we want to pay attention to how our family patterns show up, play out, that sort of thing. And so we thought, and of course the title of our talk today is Let It Go. We actually have to let go of these patterns. We have to see them as best we can, begin to practice new behaviors, and let go of the idea that this is the way you do relationship. Because that's what we bring in from our families, how you do relationship. All right, so that was what we had to share, and we thought to kick it off, and so we just thought we've got some hands
There's
back there.
a hand already, so Q&A.
So Charity's going to be in this line over here,
We're gonna
and Lainey's going to be in this
questions.
line over there, so go on back. Charity, go ahead and bring the microphone back there, and stand up, say your name.
Yeah, just first name would be great.
And a short question.
Oh, a short one.
Or comment.
So I'm Grant.
Hi, Grant.
The question I have, and for me, one of the toughest challenges, so the conversation is amazing and I appreciate you sharing it. For me, one of the toughest challenges, staying conscious and watching my thoughts and my patterns. It's so easy just to let what I call the monkey mind, just let the mind take over and run the pattern where I don't even see the pattern running. Instead, then I get in, I've got to defend the pattern, I got to protect it. But if you step back and look at it, so the tough part is, can you talk about how both of you have learned to stay conscious and kind of step out of yourself and watch it without being involved in the pattern?
Yeah, I'll take that first. Because
It's a great question.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm now blessed. It's not the only time, but I'm truly blessed with an emotionally intelligent person who does her own spiritual practice, who practices what she preaches. And so I have to say, because she's so conscious, she calls me on it all the time. And in the beginning of our relationship, I did not like that at all. And I didn't. I felt the resistance in me tremendously. And over these 3 years, it's 3 years today, I think, or around Mother's Day, 3 years. Over this period of time, what I'm seeing is I am letting go of the resistance of someone helping me and assisting me outside of myself, because I can't do it alone. I tried to do it alone pretty much my entire life. I've finally begun and have let go of most of the resistance now, where when it's pointed out by Petra or by friends or by this community, the members of this community, I'm like, and I don't go straight to defense. I don't go straight to And so that actually has helped me still the monkey mind, still the just not staying conscious, because now I'm actually using people outside of me. And I don't think I ever truly did that before, because people attempted, but I was in resistance because they were wrong and I'm right. When actually she points things out a lot, and not pointing things out. I think this is significantly important. We have a commitment to each other to always, and I mean always, lift each other up, not let each other play small, call each other out, bring us forward in our own life and our collective life. And so now the resistance for me has pretty much, it still shows itself, but I catch it so quickly. So that if we can surround ourselves, and if we're blessed enough to have it in our significant partner relationship, yay. If not, find the people that will assist. That's what I'd say.
Well, and I would add to that first of all, we have agreement that our relationship is spiritual practice. Okay, so that's really important. If you don't have an agreement to call each other out, don't do it, because we are not each other's thought police, and it's not fair. So we actually have that agreement. Second of all, the biggest thing that Karen has taught me is that she's on my side. I still find that rather hard to believe, actually. And so when we find ourselves seeing these patterns in each other, what I remember is that I love her, that I'm on her side, and this pattern that I'm seeing isn't her. And when she's pointing something out for me or calling me on something, I know beyond the shadow of a doubt that she's on my side. And so that also becomes very clear then. If I am in resistance or want to defend, then that's where the work is. Do you see? That becomes the flag. That becomes the very way of noticing that I'm in my pattern. Because, oh boy, do I go into resistance or want to defend. If I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, then, right, it's just good information and I'm not actually in that. So resistance and defense actually become the very, hello, pay attention, hello. And again, we try to do it as quickly as, and then the last thing I would say is that while we try to do it very quickly, it doesn't work while you're in the heat of it. So usually then it's the next day or later, or it's like, okay, so can we just talk about that a little bit? Can we just, something happen, let's talk about it. Because we're no longer in the emotional response of it. And then we can actually say, well, this is what was happening for me, this is what was happening for me, and now we can understand a little better. So great question. And of course, that's what spiritual practice is. Over and over and over and over, how do you bring yourself to consciousness? I mean, that is the crux of spiritual practice. So thanks. All right, who else?
See one here.
Okay, one there, and okay.
Turn.
Oh, hi, I'm Valerie. I totally understand Karen because I'm also a Leo, and Leos like to share. We're always generous. We're very generous. So if I have a better idea or another idea, it just blurts right out of me. I don't even know I'm doing it, right? And I don't mean any harm, but it is annoying to the other person. In my case, my parents' mental and physical illness caused me to think I had to parent them. So all through my teens, I was parent in the house. And then I moved on to roommate relationships and friend relationships. They didn't like me very much. I was always on their case trying to help them, and yet we didn't have this format of the spiritual relationship, so bad things would end up happening, and I felt victimized and hurt. I'm now seeing someone who's very conscious, and we are doing what you're doing, that this connection is nothing but our spiritual practice, and isn't that the most wonderful thing in the world? And isn't it wonderful that I found a close friend who wants to be with me, to share that with?
Yes.
So thank you for sharing this,
Beautiful.
and may we all go in this direction.
Yes. Yay. Thanks, Valerie. Awesome.
Thank you. We got right there.
All right, another hand over here. Let me just also say another perfect lock-in key in a relationship, a dysfunctional relationship, is someone takes the role of parent and the other person takes the role of child. right? And then you get resentment on both parts. And so those are patterns that we've seen in our family that we've brought right into that relationship. So thank you for bringing that up, Valerie. That could be one of the most common ways in which we are a lock and key. Two people are a lock and key for each other. Mm-hmm. All right.
I'm Stephanie.
Hi, Stephanie.
And my question was a little bit almost opposite of Grant's.
Okay.
I have what I call the hamster wheel of doubt, which is being so hyper vigilant and sensitive and conscious of certain patterns that I think I manifest them outward. So how do you make sure that you're conscious, but you're not so conscious that you're recreating the same patterns over and over?
So that's a great question. And so for those of us who have hypervigilance, if you have any kind of alcohol or mental illness, alcohol addictions in your families, you probably have what's known as codependence and hypervigilance. And so what you have to learn is to stop paying attention so much. Really. Well, they looked at me funny. Well, they did that. Well, I don't know. Well, do we have to talk about everything? Everything? Oh my gosh. No, we do not. And I learned this as a parent. Pick your battles. We have to pick the things that are really important. And we actually have to build an emotional elasticity. And so in emotional intelligence, there's a zone that they call our emotional elasticity. And then around that zone is the sensitive part. And then when sensitivity is overcome, around that comes reaction. And the smaller our emotional elasticity is, the quicker that we go into the sensitive zone and the faster then we go to reaction, which usually means the other person has to change what they're doing. They have to stop doing whatever it is that they're doing and start doing something else because I feel impacted by it. So again, this is why this is a spiritual practice, right? When you do meditation, in the meditation practice, when they did the brain things on the monks, the brain, whatever that is, scans on the monks as they were doing these deep meditations, and then they would sound gongs and they would, do train sounds and all kinds of stuff. And we think, oh, they don't hear it. No, that's actually not true. The brain wave shows that when the sound sounded, there was a response in the brain wave, and they went right back to where they were before. So it's not that they didn't hear it, it's that they didn't get caught on it. They actually let it wash over and go by. And so when an average person had the brain scan, right, it went along, they were meditating, and then there was the sound, and then they had to think about the sound, and then they had to be in resistance to the sound, and then they had to talk to themselves about the sound, and then, oh wait, I forgot I was supposed to be meditating. Right? And all of that is what we do when we're being hyper-vigilant around what's going on around us. And so our spiritual practice can actually help in allowing things to wash over and kind of go on by so that our emotional elasticity, that middle section grows so much that we have sensitivity, but we actually never then are impelled over into reaction. So that's what I would say about that. Okay.
Sounds complete to me. Got one up front, quickly.
Okay,
We
right
want to
here.
get to as many as we can.
Hi, everybody. I'm Connie. And I grew up in a very polarized family, meaning my mom and dad were right and the other guys were wrong. For them, their area was politics. They were very, very liberal. They were union organizers in the San Francisco area in the 30s, and it was really strong. So I grew up with that same pattern of being very polarized. Just let me tell you, and I'm right and you're wrong. But it wasn't about politics.
Stay in the mic, please, Connie.
Oh, thank you, yeah.
Ask the question.
Oh, good, yeah. It wasn't about politics for me. It was about natural health. Just let me tell you. And I want to tell you that. No. Something that is extremely helpful for me right now, yes, we need help, is the dialogue group here at CSL. Oh my goodness. It is changing my life. Beautiful. I'm learning how to do what you said just now, to not be thinking about what I'm going to say and what's coming next, while they're talking, but to sit back, really listen and get them.
Beautiful.
And notice if I'm triggered, but not be triggered. And then to talk, but it's so different to really, really respect them and their path and what they have to say and not promote mine so much. It's fantastic.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah,
Thank you, Connie. So what Connie's talking about is one of our circles of life here at CSLDallas is the dialogue circle. And you make a 6-month commitment to meet once a month. I'm in this particular dialogue circle right now. I highly recommend it. And it's based on the work by Neil Bohm. You can look him up. And Neil Bohm.
I think it's David Bohm.
David? Oh,
David
thank
Bohm.
you. David Bohm on dialogue. And it teaches us a way to listen, especially when people have polarizing, different opinions, thoughts, perspectives, other lenses than what we have grown up with or taught, perspectives of our own. And I think if this country in particular right now would become a big dialogue circle, boy, would things be really, really great, even better. Yeah.
Well, and these are the things that we learn how to do in our personal relationships, right? And it starts with actually seeing the truth of the other person. Mm-hmm. Do I actually hold Karen as a radiant, magnificent being of love and light who is actually having her own life and her own journey with the divine? Do you see? If I can see that and I know that about her, then I don't need to tell her what to do. I don't need to tell her what's hers. I can barely figure out my own life. What, are you kidding me? I have no idea what she needs to be doing. What I can feed back to her is how she's showing up impacts me, and I can give that as feedback, and I can see what's being triggered in myself. But I don't know what she should be doing because actually she's having her own life. And so for me, that the other thing that has really been amazing in growing this relationship as a spiritual practice is that rather than feeling like we're doing this all the time, we're actually doing this most of the time. We're about our lives and about our growth and about each other, supporting each other. But she can't be all things to me, and I can't be all things to her. And she can't, and here's the other thing. Do you know how annoying it is that when you fall in love with that person and then they turn out to be not like you? What is up with that? But that's the beauty, right? That's the beauty. If I stop needing for her to be just like me, then the very differences that she brings are the things that are attractive to me and she pulls me toward that. As opposed to, no, you should be more like me, right? I allow myself to be pulled towards those things. She's more gregarious than I am. She loves to be out with people. She's got a way better abundance consciousness that I have. She's funny as hell. I'm like so serious. It's ridiculous. Right? And and I tend to be very literal. She's kind of, she's very, very wonderfully and enthusiastic and right. And so I actually am attracted to all those things, but they're also the very things that can annoy me. Right? Isn't that the case? Isn't that the way that is? And so when we move into that place of annoyance, we then actually want to mold the other person to be like us, and we forget that the whole reason we are attracted is because that's what we actually want more of in our own lives. So there is some deep truth to the fact that she completes me. But there's some even deeper truth that because she completes me, she draws that out of me. It's really not fair to ask her to carry all of that. Right? That's also not right. And so to allow the very things that then to become, that are kind of an annoyance, to actually see, no, that's the difference and how great that is. And to, because I know the truth of who she is. Do you see what I'm saying? She's not doing those things to annoy me. She's not. Those are all those patterns of my own thinking and my own projections that I have to clean up.
Yes.
Yes.
And to encourage the difference and celebrate the differences. And, Petra is an exceptionally big introvert, massive introvert. She, it's like when your cell phone starts getting low, what do? You recharge it, right? Or it's not going to work. Well, that's what introvert, extrovert means. How do you get recharged? She gets recharged by being totally alone. She could spend months and years in a cabin in the woods without a single soul, just the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees, and would be really happy. Well, I get recharged around you guys. If I'm not here, I go, oh, I need my peeps, right? But that draws me, and actually, I've learned how I also need some alone time. I reach my maximum too, and she actually likes to be more with people, a little more. A lot more. A lot more. So we celebrate our differences. That's just one. Okay, let's take one, maybe two more.
And there's one in the back, too.
One in the back, yep.
Okay.
Okay, we'll get another mic right
Hello.
here. There we go.
Everybody.
All right.
Just would like to ask you guys to speak to the self-love piece,
Oh, do you want to get that? Yes, go ahead.
which is something that's been revealed to me through, just say, my past experience, and how important it is to be complete for oneself. And I know you just used that word completes me, but I think you're using it in a particular way.
In a non-codependent way.
In a non-codependent way. And my folks taught me the enmeshment model, which was they were the one person model for, rather than the two people holding complete unto themselves, loving themselves and journeying in that forward way that you were expressing. So I think that is really, for me, the crucial piece that I have learned the very hard way, and I'm grateful for it. But could you please speak to that for us?
Yes,
Thanks.
I would like to do that. Whew. So I will honestly say that is the greatest gift I got from breast cancer. As many as you know, on my birthday in 2014, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I asked, what is this gift? And I got very clear, the breast is a nurturing, if we think about it, the breast is a nurturing part of the body. It's used to nurture other people, whatever. And what I got very clear on is I did not have that self-love for myself, to absolutely love myself, to honor myself, to respect myself, and to know thyself. And that was the gift that I was brought. I had to do some really deep forgiveness work with myself because I would so love another so much that I actually had the idea, am I really going to say this out loud on camera and in the sanctuary? I knew that I actually had the idea in a former relationship when that person got breast cancer and went through something horrific, that if I could only get it to, it would make the relationship better. And I share this for the sake of anyone else in here, and that was that was my forgiveness work that I got, because I know consciousness is causal, and I knew the thoughts that I had had in the past, and so when it showed up, I didn't believe that it was because my grandmother had it, whatever. I'm like, oh my gosh. Really? I could not love myself that much that I would wish something on myself to make a relationship better. That goes way beyond, let's have kids, that'll fix the relationship.
Right.
Don't do that. I now know, and I share this with people and counseling sessions and opportunities just like now. I know the greatest gift we actually could give another is to love ourselves so unconditionally. I say this all the time. I am the one person that will never leave me. I know that now. I am the one person that will be with me to my very last breath in this expression. I know that I am the one that will nurture me and care for me and love me and honor me and respect me. And I now know sooner, I trust, when I'm not doing that. I think this is most important. We've been taught something wrong. I think it's the most important thing for us to love ourselves so much. And Paul Farini speaks of this. He speaks of this in this book.
I think it's the whole first chapter even.
Well, it's it's in the first part of the book. He talks about this and that we need to love ourselves and nurture ourselves and do the things that we really enjoy doing and to live our life each and every moment. And it was because I know this for a fact. This was part of this right here because I was diagnosed and I only tended to myself. I got to make the decision because no one else was in my life. In a relationship, I got to make the decision, what am I going to do with my body? I didn't look to someone else and say, what do you think I ought to do with my body in this moment? I didn't have to think about, how would that person still love me or whatever. So I went totally 100% here, thanks to that diagnosis. And because of that, and I moved through that, I believe that is what gave the opening to find a really 100% equal person because I loved myself so much and did my forgiveness work with myself.
Yeah, and I would absolutely echo that. I had come to the point where I just decided, the rest of my life I'm just not going to be in a relationship anymore. Been there, done that for a very long time. I've practiced serial monogamy pretty much my whole life. And obviously relationships aren't for me. I obviously don't do them well. And so really, I had grown to the place where I really was loving my own company, loving my life, myself, where I was going with it. And and that made the space. I fully believe that made the space for something healthy to move into my life as opposed to continuing to attract out of those old patterns.
Yeah, and I believe that as we fully love ourselves and know ourselves and will honor ourselves and respect ourselves so much, that so within, so without. I mean, truly, then the person moving towards you loves you, honors you, respects you, etc. I don't think I went. I mean, this was the longest period from the last relationship to our relationship where I was not in a relationship in my entire adult life. Boom, 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 boom. So I was always doing this. Until I learned how to do this, I actually, could not. So I really invite each of us to think we've got it wrong. Love thyself first. Nurture thyself. Know thyself. Love this person. Put your hand on your chest and know that this person that you're touching right now, like with the most love I trust you could ever do that at home. This person is never going to leave you. Ever. Boy, don't you want to love the person that's always there for you and never going to leave you and honor you and respect you? And we tend to not do that, and then we look for someone else to do it for us, to know that we're so loved. And if I can share that, I know that was the greatest gift that I was given. That was my unexpected blessing, is to know that, really, Karen, how could you have ever thought that would help a relationship and help that person? I don't wish that on anyone. And so put thyself first. And all things, you'll be so full in the overflow. You'll move towards that next person, that intimate relationship, the one you have right now, by doing so.
8:18 twice a day. That's right.
Yeah, so I'll end with that, and then we got to go. It's something that I used to do Be Love workshops, and every single person has their birthday on a digital clock. I'm born on August 18th, so 8:18. So whenever, I started this practice over 10 years ago. So whenever I see 8:18 on my cell phone or wherever on a digital clock, I say, I love you, Karen Fry.
So you can too.
Right? I don't even care if I'm in the aisle of a Target store. I go, I love you. Some people think I'm crazy. I used to do it inside. Now I do it exuberantly. I do it in my car, whatever. So on 3, I want you to shout out your birthday on a digital clock. On 3, you know what it is. 1, 2, 3.
401.
Yay. So start looking for that on the digital clock, and when it shows up, take that as an opportunity to say, I love you, Petra Weldis, et cetera, Sherry Wood, whatever, right? You get it?
Yes.
Do that from here on out,
Yes.
and that will grow. That will grow.
All right, so let's just close by keeping that hand right here on our heart, absolutely knowing that the heart that is the truth of our being is love and life, making itself known in the world. And that as we allow that love to flow through us, we are lifted and our relationships are nurtured and lifted with consciousness, with love, with growth. And truly, we simply affirm that each one of us experiences the joy that there is in all of our relationships, intimate, friends, family, loved ones. And we bless it and call it oh so very good. And so it is.
So it is.